Inside the last 28 minutes of the Sports Max Zone for this Friday. We're talking cricket now on the Sports Max Zone. The West Indies women will be looking to keep their perfect record intact when they face India's women at the ICC World Cup later on Friday at Seddon Park in Hamilton. The regional women have won 2 from 2 so far, beating hosts New Zealand and England to sit 4th on the table with 4 points. Seamer Shakira Selman says her team is not taking this strong start for granted.
Obviously, really good to get off to a good start. We're pumped to have won our first 2 games, especially against 2 highly ranked sides, 2 teams we haven't done well against in recent times. First time we've beaten New Zealand in New Zealand, and the first time we've beaten England in an ODI World Cup. So we're really excited as a team, but we're not getting carried away. We know that we're going to have to keep fighting. It is going to get harder. Coaches have reminded us that we came into this World Cup pretty much under the radar. No teams are going to be focusing on us, so we know it's going to get tougher.
Yeah, and Selman also spoke highly of her 30-year-old captain, Stephanie Taylor.
Steph has been an outstanding leader. I think what has worked in our favor and in her favor is how calm she keeps on the field. Yeah, we've seen facial expressions, but she still tends to keep her calm in the field, and she communicates fairly well, especially when we're under pressure. So I think that has worked in her favor and in the team's favor.
So India's women's head coach, Ramesh Paur, says it is time for his team to step up and play as if they want to win.
I think it was one of those days where things didn't go our way. And honestly, I was also surprised the way we batted 20 overs. And if you look back last 6 games which we played against New Zealand, we were, executing our plans well. I think it is the pressure, I think, of World Cup, but I don't want to give any excuses. This is the right time to, put your hand up and put up the performances. Because we've been training for last 6 months. We've been to England, Australia. We've been to New Zealand early. So we got every practice opportunity which was needed. So it is time as a group to stand up and deliver.
So India against the West Indies at the ICC Women's World Cup tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time, and Fazeer Mohammed joins us to talk about this and other cricket matters. Faz, let me start here. How impressed were you with the 2 victories the West Indies women have had so far over the English and New Zealand?
Very impressed, Lance. I don't think there's any way we could get around the fact that the West Indies would have gone into this tournament, as we just heard, as under the radar. And not just the fact that they would have won, but they won getting runs on the board. In the first match, that 100 from Hayley Matthews, getting up to 259. And then in the second match, even after that bright start, they wobbled, and then came a century partnership from the middle order. We've usually grown accustomed to seeing the same names. Stephanie Taylor, Deandra Dottin, Hayley Matthews, and then in the bowling, Fazeer Mohammed, Shakira Selman, and so on. But you're seeing other players stepping up. And even though it's far from a perfect effort as yet, 5 catches dropped in the first match, 3 catches dropped in the second, but then that outstanding catch from Deandra Dottin. I'd like to see anybody match that as catch of the tournament, given that we still have some way to go. But I think this has really been a tremendously impressive effort from the West Indies women. And it's good to see as well, Lance and the rest of the team, that they recognize that there's a long way to go. They've pulled off 2 outstanding victories, but it's nothing to get carried away with.
Yeah, I made the point earlier this week that Shemaine Campbell's 66 in this latest match was her first half century in 9 years. I know that she had some injury issues during that period and also a loss of form. But this is a player that has quality, and I think she can add herself to the big 3 that the West Indies have with regard to, performing match-winning performances.
Absolutely. And, you've touched on an important point, because we've heard all these names for a number of years and more or less took it for granted that they are not really going to contribute much. Because, again, as you said correctly, the big 3, they are going to make all the difference. But, again, it's worth pointing out, Lance, this is essentially the same team that played so poorly in the 2017 World Cup, where they were uncompetitive against the top teams. And now they've beaten New Zealand for the first time ever in an ODI in New Zealand. they've beaten England for the first time ever in the ODI World Cup, and that's merely reinforcing what we just heard already. So this team is performing, whether it has to do with Courtney Walsh, whether it has to do with the players being comfortable with the environment now, but they are playing like a different team right now.
Yeah, Faz, and the captain, Stefanie Taylor, yet to fire yet. You know, she hasn't really shown us what she's used to doing. Do you get the sense that that will be playing in the back of her mind, and maybe very soon we can see a big score from her?
Well, I think it's a good thing that we haven't had that major contribution as yet. We had Deandra dotting 3 boundaries in the opening innings against New Zealand and then falling cheaply. Still, the West Indies went on to get nearly 260. So I think it's very encouraging. But of course, you want your top players to deliver. You're not going to go through an entire tournament like this, and Stefanie Taylor is not going to make more or 3 or 4 significant contributions if the West Indies are to get to the semi-finals, and who knows, maybe get to the final and maybe contend for the title itself. But sooner or later, she's going to come good because she is a quality player. But I think it really speaks a lot to the ability of this team overall, that they haven't yet relied totally on that sort of contribution from Stefanie Taylor.
Yeah, and Faz, of course, India losing to New Zealand, the same New Zealand that West Indies were able to beat, you know, that would sort of be in the back of their minds, knowing that, you know, maybe this will be an easy win for them.
Well, I think India are going to be desperate. And the West Indies will not be saying, well, we beat New Zealand and New Zealand hammered India. So by extension, it follows that we're going to beat India very easily. Sport is not a linear progression. Anything can happen on any given day. And the Indians, and you heard from Ramesh Pawar, you almost seem to be suggesting, well, maybe you all are too comfortable. Maybe you all to think that just turning up here means that automatically you are in the semi-finals because you are beaten finalists so dramatically the last time around at Lord's almost 5 years ago. And maybe he's sending a message, rather subtly but maybe more overtly in the dressing room, that your players really need to step up to the plate and deliver, or we're going to find someone else to replace you.
Yeah, sticking with West Indies cricket, moving to the Red Bowl now. The men currently locked in a battle with England in the first Apex Test at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua and Barbuda. Batting a second time, England are 217 for 1, a lead of 153 heading into the final day. Opener Zach Crawley and captain Joe Root are not out on 117 and 84 respectively. Kemar Roach has taken the only wicket so far. The main highlights of this match so far: England 311. And as we said, in their second innings, 217 for 1. The West Indies 375, with then Nkrumah Bonner getting 123. And the England team at the moment leading by 153 runs. Faz, a tough day in the field for the West Indies, but we have grown accustomed over time to see pitches in Antigua affording batsmen a lot of comfort.
Yes, but 3 years ago, it was a bowler's pitch, as you'll recall, against England. The West Indies won by 10 wickets. Probably the only innings of significance was Darren Bravo, probably his last Test innings of significance, when he battled for nearly 6 hours to get 50, and the West Indies won inside 3 days to clinch what was then the Wisden Trophy. But as you said correctly, we've gone back to reverting to this placid, benign sort of surface, which we saw last year when Nkrumah Bonner got that 100 on the last day. And we can't take anything away from either Bonner, from Bairstow in the England first innings, or indeed Zach Crawley today, because a Test match 100 is a Test match 100. But again, it's important to put it in perspective. When you could have Kemar Roach, he's not the most fearsome bowler anymore, but he's certainly someone who you have to be very watchful as a batsman. When you could have Kemar Roach mid-afternoon on this day, telling Joshua De Silva to come up to the stumps to stand up because the batsmen are taking too many liberties going down the track against him, that tells you a story. We're looking at his dismissal of Alex Lees, and clearly he's got the left-hander's number. But when you look at the bowling, it's a very placid surface. It requires a lot of patience, a lot of persistence, and a lot of luck as well. And credit to England with this partnership between Crawley and Root, that you can stand now with, 193? And they'll be thinking, who knows, that if they can get enough runs on the board quickly enough on the last day, that there might be a chance of trying to force a result. Although at this stage, I don't see the pitch deteriorating to any significant level to make a result possible.
A quick one in the minute we have left. Fazeer, Zach Crawley, of course, will take the plaudits for his century. 18 months between them, his first and his second. But what about Joe Root and how he's batted so far? His 77th Test half-century. Fazeer, I had to check about 5 sources to confirm that the man has been dismissed for between 50 and 100 77 times in his career. That's way above number 2 on the list of all-time 50s made. And the Englishman, well, only a curmudgeon would begrudge him a 3-figure score, because at this stage it looks like a drawn game. But it would be nice to see the England captain get 3 figures. Would you say that?
Well, I'll never be delighted when England do well against the West Indies. But you're right, he is a quality player. He is a class player. He's always had that challenge that many people have pointed out. Maybe it becomes almost mental from turning those 50s into the 100s. But even Crawley said it. When you've got your captain calm, assured, offering advice, helping you along, mentoring you along, that's what you need. It's almost as invaluable as the runs that Joe Root himself will score. So take nothing away from the England captain. He is a class act.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Faz, great talking to you as usual. I know you'll be enjoying Sportsmax in the morning with the start of the India-Sri Lanka second test, and just ahead of more cricket from Antigua. Thanks, Faz. We'll talk next week.
Too much cricket, Lance. Too much cricket.
Yeah. Just one quick one before we go.
Yeah.
You remember we were saying from yesterday, that this looks destined for a draw.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you look at the run rate, West Indies 2.68 runs per over in their first innings. Mm-hmm. England and the West Indies 3.03 in their second innings. Mm-hmm. You can't bat like that and expect that you'll be in a position from day 4 to win a test match. The batting was too slow yesterday. Yeah, I know we're proving that.
Yeah, I agree with that. We go to break. When we come back, some NBA talk and, of course, the closing moments with the Sportsmax class moments and interactive up after this.